George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and other towering figures didn't do it on their own. They depended heavily on others, and each of them were great in their own way. A few were noted by history and Wikipedia, like today's highlighted person. Some are remembered by their families, like my many times great-grandfather, who was a Revolutionary War soldier, and he was present at Cornwallis's surrender. There are a lot of others, many others, who stood in the breach at a key moment, whose contribution has been lost to history. So this series is about American patriots, great and small. Today's episode is about George Read. He's a lesser-known but influential patriot and signer of the Declaration of Independence for Delaware. He was the son of a wealthy Englishman who came to the colonies to develop new business interests after the untimely death of his beloved first wife. George Read was born in Cecil County, Maryland on September 18, 1733. He wasn't there long. As an infant, his family moved to Newcastle County, Delaware. He married Gertrude Ross Till, and they had 4 kids. He became a lawyer by trade and was admitted to the Pennsylvania bar in 1753. He had studied law in Pennsylvania. And then his professional life gets interesting. In 1763, he became Attorney General for 3 Delaware counties, and he served in that capacity until joining the First Continental Congress in 1774 at the age of 41. Now, he favored reconciliation with Britain. He really wanted us to find a way forward as a part of the British Empire. But when that proved impossible, he supported founding a new nation. In an interesting twist of fate, he was one of only 2 statesmen who signed 4 of the Great State Papers. Those were the bedrock documents that helped create what became the United States of America. And those 4 documents were the 1774 petition to King George III by the First Continental Congress asking for a repeal of the Intolerable Acts, which were, as you might guess, decisions the king made that the colonists found intolerable. And as we all know, he rejected those out of hand. Then he was a signer for Delaware to the 1774 Continental Association. And that was an agreement between the colonies for a trade boycott against Britain. And it worked. There was a significant drop in imports from Great Britain. And more importantly, it showed that the colonies could work together for their common good. And he signed the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. So that really shows his deep involvement in founding our nation. So as it relates to the Declaration of Independence, he actually voted against it on July 2nd, 1776. But he was outvoted 2 days later, and the resolution was adopted. And then he agreed to sign the Declaration. That signature was no small thing. King George III considered all of the signers to be traitors, and if captured, to be treated as such. Many lost their lives, families, and lands, and that's not often recognized, but they knew the risk that they were taking. In the Second Continental Congress, he insisted that a new constitution be created to replace the weak and ineffective original. To quote him, he said, "To amend the articles was simply putting old cloth on a new garment." And indeed, they did create a whole new constitution. He advocated for abolishing the states and creating a single strong national government. But nobody liked that idea. At that time, state governments were far stronger than the federal government, and they were very wary of any kind of a federal government. Being from Delaware, a small state even then, he feared the larger, more populous, and wealthier states would, to quote him again, probably combine to swallow up the smaller by addition, division, or impoverishment, end quote. So he decided if we're going to have states, the playing field had to be leveled in some way. And he went so far as to threaten to pull Delaware out of the Congress and the national government unless protections were put in place. His work contributed to the checks and balances between the House and the Senate. Even today, the large and populous states chafe against the 2 senators per state rule. And a good part of the reason it's there is to protect the interests of smaller states. He also believed the federal government should be able to veto state laws, which gave us a supremacy clause in the Constitution. And once the Constitution was adopted, he lobbied for it in his home state of Delaware. Delaware became the first state to ratify it, and they did so unanimously. That's no big surprise that he became Delaware's first United States Senator, and he was a member of the Federalist Party, serving under President Washington. You don't hear it said that way very well, President Washington. So anyway, serving under President Washington, he supported the assumption of state debts, the establishment of a national bank, and imposing excise taxes when needed. William T. Reed, in his Life and Correspondence, described Reed as tall, slightly and gracefully formed, with pleasing features and lustrous brown eyes. His manners were dignified, bordering upon austerity, but courteous and at times captivating. That sounds very British to me, or at least my perception of British, especially from that time. Anyway, continuing, he commanded entire confidence, not only from his profound legal knowledge, sound judgment, and impartial decisions, but from his severe integrity and purity in his private character. However, a fellow delegate from the Constitutional Convention of 1787 noted that his legal abilities are said to be very great, but his powers of oratory are fatiguing and tiresome to the last degree. His voice is feeble, and his articulation so bad that few can have the patience to attend him. So there you are on some opinions. Historians like John Monroe recognize that Reed was the dominating figure in Delaware politics during his career. He directly or indirectly provided consistent and reliable leadership in that new state. He resigned during his second term in the Senate to become the Chief Justice of the Delaware Supreme Court, where he served until his death. He died in Newcastle, Delaware, his nearly lifelong home, on September 21st, 1798, and he's buried there at the Emmanuel Episcopal Church Cemetery. Such was the 68-year busy and consequential life of George Reed, a lesser-known founding father of our nation. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and like so that I know that they're worth doing. I enjoy doing them, and I really hope you did too. And thank you very much for watching, especially thanks for watching to the end. Good day.